In this episode of Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks, we're going to have piggish little epics, yogas doing all kinds of downward dog positions, and cyberpunks and supreme, super duper 3080s, RTX 3080s, don't you know? Coming up next. That was mostly horrible. Welcome back to yet another episode of Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks podcast. I'm Dave Altavilla, stumbling over the T's so deftly today.
This is the part where I tell Dave that people can hear him during that part.
I don't
the
care.
Intro is blasting.
I don't care. No, it's all part of the blooper reel. We're like a constant stream of blooper reel. Damn it, on this podcast. Marco, how you doing? Are you blooping over there? Are you blooping in things you shouldn't be?
I'm doing good. Freshly showered and shaved. I got an article out today. The holidays are behind us. You know, things are okay.
Freshly coiffed, are you? Coiffed? I love that word.
I am.
Chris, are you coiffed with that Kris Kringle beard you got going on there? Young, debonair Kris Kringle from the north?
Yeah, I mean, I probably need a haircut or three, but, we'll get there.
There you go. Yeah, we all need a haircut or three in the COVID times, don't you know? Getting many a miles between haircuts, because that's what you got to do. Just stay out of the public locations as much as possible. You know, be smart about it, and keep your damn filthy germs to yourself, Marco. Okay.
I just went to the barber today, so I can't talk.
You're a bad man. You're a bad man, but you're good at what you do, and you've been checking out all kinds of technology. Hey, we're post Christmas, ramping up to CES here shortly, which will be a very different kind of event this year, a virtual event, second week of January this year. Typically CES in Las Vegas. What's up, Freckles? Freckles barking in the background, saying hello to everybody. Freckles is a large animal, by the way. Yes. So, typically we head down to Las Vegas and share germs with all kinds of people, but that's not happening this year. But there's lots of stuff still going on. The majors, the OEMs, the board partners, the system OEMs, the chip guys, they're all getting ready to trot out their wares as usual this time of year. And so we've got a few preludes that we'll talk about that we've covered in the reviews and the news. But stay tuned to Hot Hardware in the weeks ahead, in the short weeks ahead, like 2 weeks, because there will be lots of stuff bubbling for CES 2021. Hard to say 2021. Glad to see 2020 go, but 2021 is like, wow. Another year has evaporated. How you doing with that, Marco?
Yeah, I'm cool with it. I'm looking forward to this year being behind us and starting fresh next year on a whole bunch of different levels. I need the reset. I know it's kind of cliche to have New Year's resolutions, but I'm setting some goals this year. It's going to happen.
You got to set goals. You have to set goals early and often. The New Year's resolutions, maybe they're cliche, but still good for humans to do. No need to keep going on with the status quo. Got to shake it up a little bit. And exactly. And actually we shook things up a little bit in the news. I'll mention a couple of quick things before we dive into the primary topics at hand today. Two reviews on the mobile side of things that I'll drop into the chat. Check out the Nokia 8V 5G UW review that Miriam Joie from our team, the Hot Hardware mobile team, checked out. It's a bit of a miss for Nokia, an iconic brand in phones. Kind of surprised they didn't hit more of the high notes for this $700 price point. Better values elsewhere was kind of the bottom line for sure, but an interesting device and good to actually have Nokia still firing. And not, completely extinct in the handset market. Big company, so obviously, hopefully some bigger things down the road to come. And then the Realme 7 5G, I'll drop that in there as well. Interesting device. Actually a fantastic 5G phone. And it's very affordable. However, not available in the US market. So downside there. But really a well-equipped phone for the price, and it's actually, I think it's 279 euro, starting at that, 279. So, $300 phone US, roughly thereabouts. I'm just taking a swag at it. But yeah, it's Miriam noted that it was what the OnePlus Nord N10 5G should have been. Realme is just, they put up some good stuff here. And if you're in Europe, um, in that neck of the woods, not in the US, this is something to look at. So check that out. That's on the mobile side of things. But elsewhere in the news, something much bigger came up. The folks at Epic Games have a little something, something. I'll drop this into the chat as well, called the Epic Games Launcher, excuse me. So obviously, a lot of these different major publishing companies now have their own game stores and app utilities that run in the trade, manage your game library on their platforms, similar to Steam. And this little utility was discovered being rather piggish on CPU resources. In fact, one of the things we picked up in a Reddit thread that tipped us off to look more deeply into this situation was that this Reddit user was reporting like a 20C jump when this Epic Game Launcher was active in the app tray and really idle, not active, but idle, like not updating games. And, looking at CPU utilization, there's a few percent here and there being consumed. It was definitely high for the app. We did some digging and found out it also has a light GPU load as well, which was kind of bizarre. We could track that in Task Manager now. So the good news is the folks at Epic picked up on this pretty quickly. They saw all the buzz. They probably saw our coverage because we kind of broke on the major publications with this early. I think we were the first to report on it beyond Reddit, and they actually have released a patch since then, which is a partial fix for the situation. But interesting discoveries, also shipping packets around the internet a little bit too much. Marco, thoughts there? And we proved it out before we raised the flag on it with a headline. But Epic Games Launcher receives partial hot fix, just went up today. They had previously been a little piggish on the resources, though.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to read the release notes on the update that supposedly solves it, but it's I don't know if it's being piggish or if it was intentional because they were phoning home and who knows what else they were processing in the background. I'm not sure without knowing exactly what has changed, but glad that you guys dug in. I know you guys were working on Christmas to get that story out. You guys need to take some breaks, but yeah, it's good that that they reacted so quickly and that you guys proved it out on multiple machines. Hopefully it wasn't anything shady going on. Hopefully they weren't using your GPU and CPU to mine.
Yeah, I mean, it was really a little weird. I have a Ryzen 9 5950X machine. I'm fortunate enough to have that with an RTX 3080, and I fired up Task Manager with Epic Games Launcher running. I actually have it loaded on my machine for a couple of titles, and I observed the exact same thing. Windows Task Manager was flagging it for high CPU utilization, high to moderate, it would oscillate. Nathan Ord from our team actually fired up Wireshark and observed that it was sending, a healthy amount of traffic to something like 20 plus servers around the internet. There was an AWS subdomain that was picked in this Wireshark snoop that he did.
It was Glasswire, not Wireshark, but
Glasswire.
Potato.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Same kind of thing. Anyways. And, there was something like a half a meg of data that was shipped around. But when you looked at it versus that kind of data consumption and traffic, you looked at that versus like a Steam, it was something like 20x or 14x, I think was his calculation, the amount of data in the same time period that was being shipped by Epic Games Launcher. Chris, any thoughts on this yourself? I know you're an IT guy that has to run down rogue utilities like this that get out of hand sometimes.
Yeah, so the amount of data it was pulling in our capture period there wasn't particularly concerning, but obviously we don't know what the contents were. It'd be encrypted, could be anything running back what processes are running, anything else. We wouldn't really know unless we had a way to view what that data actually is. It's definitely not a good look that it is causing CPUs to run warm. I mean, it is the winter. It is beneficial, but there's more efficient ways to get your house heated than running the Epic Games launcher. So, probably not too cool there. But it's also not necessarily uncommon for software. Epic Games claims it was a bug. It's unintentional. We can take them at their word. At least it is seemingly fixed now. So hopefully it doesn't pop up again.
Interesting that it was also noted. I think there was an Epic Games help forum thread that flagged this back in 2015, the same kind of issue. And so it's been around for a while. They decided to address it just recently, just this week or, late last week. But yeah, what was interesting was, I tested it out on my machine and I did witness a 20C spike in idle temperatures. So
a 20C?
20C. So I went from
Holy
30
smokes.
Yeah, 32C. I went from 32 to 34C, sitting on the desktop with my, liquid cooled Ryzen 9 5950X. Okay, 16 core CPU, Zen 3, beautiful chip, by the way, love it. That thing was, it oscillates and idles with, various apps I have running. I may have Skype in the tray and a few other utilities, at 32 to 34C. When that thing is active, it's 52 to 54C. No
Holy
question
crap.
about it. Before the fix. Now, what was odd was that, basically what it does or what it was doing, you didn't get a whole lot of CPU utilization. It was 1 to 2%, but it wasn't allowing the threads to sleep. If you looked at Ryzen Master in that screenshot in the before and after with it loaded and unloaded, it wasn't allowing the threads to sleep. It wasn't allowing the processor to totally go to sleep when it wasn't utilized. So it was pinging and lighting up the chip consistently, causing that lift in temperatures. Now, under full load, my system barely kisses 70C when, I light up Cinebench for, all it's worth, with Precision Boost Overdrive active and all that good stuff. I'll get another 20C on top of that with a full load. But yeah, it's, it was definitely piggish for sure.
Huh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, it was alarming. And, it was good to see the folks at Epic Games get on it. Kind of interesting that it's been out there for a while. It's been reported before. Kind of interesting with all the packets they're shipping to servers like, what did Nathan pull out? It was, a subdomain, tracking website dash PROD as in production 07 Epic, and then Amazon AWS.com root domain. So, they've got, there's probably some tracking. I'm sure they're monitoring user data and, that helps companies market to users. And I wouldn't surprise me in the least, but yeah, a little too much.
Yeah, man, 20C, that's no joke. I'm glad they caught that. Glad they took care of that quickly.
Yeah. Derek Moore says, greetings. Good to see you, Derek. That is a familiar name. What do I know, Derek? He's a regular, I think, around HH. All right. So shall we move along?
Yes, sir.
Should we stay in the game vein or shift to something Lenovo? What do you want to do, Marco?
We might as well stick with the games. We're on the topic now.
Yeah. Cyberpunk 2077 V105 post-patch CPU and GPU performance explored by the illustrious Ben Funk. Let's drop that into the chat as well. So Ben, from our team, I think I may have throwing a stray character on that. Let's do that again. There we go. Into the chat. Ben from our team checked out Cyberpunk 2077 after they tuned it up a little bit to run on AMD systems a little better. Symmetric multi-threading fix was employed. There had previously been an unoptimized sort of Band-Aid that was in there for older generation AMD CPUs from days gone by, pre-Ryzen, and it was limiting Ryzen systems from utilizing all of the threads available on the processor. And so, yeah, we actually took a look at performance before and after, or really what was essentially post-patch performance. And then you could compare notes to performance, on various different types of CPUs. And come to find out, the folks at CD Projekt Red did a good job. They fixed this issue. There are some appreciable gains in performance. Certainly the more heavily threaded, let me take a look at the results here and parse them a little bit. The more heavily threaded your CPU, I guess the more opportunity there is. But it sort of breaks down. Like Ryzen 9 3900X, the 12 core, didn't see much of a performance boost post-patch. But with the Ryzen 7 3700X, we did see a nice boost. So I don't know why don't you dive into that, Marco, a little bit? I'm sure you've been through this as well. It was interesting. They actually were able to pull out something like it looks like, up to 20% more. 11, it looks like 11 to 10 to 20% kind of gains.
Yeah, I think it's going to the patch on its own wasn't even enabling the full threading on the higher end Ryzens. They had it on. They still, even though they implemented it, it was on mainstream and lower end Ryzen CPUs, and you still had to do the hex edit hack to enable it on the higher end chips. And I mean, it's typical of all games. What you'll see is once you get past a certain number of threads, there's really diminishing returns unless you have a bunch of crap running in the background on your system, and you can use all those additional threads. What strikes me about CDPR is just, I'm glad they're really responsive on the PC side, but man, have they gotten beat up over the last few weeks over this launch for a game that had sold so many copies and has made them so much money already, to just be taking punches constantly, mostly because of the consoles. The PC version, Ben has found that, with these latest patches, it's pretty solid. It's not bug free, but it is worlds better than the previous gen consoles. So, I'm glad that the game is continually being updated and receiving patches to improve performance and stability. But the fact that we're having this conversation, multiple weeks after launch is not a great sign.
No, I mean, and it's funny that this was like so simple. It's like, you've got a CPU detection mechanism. And basically in simple terms, they had a CPU detection mechanism that basically limited for AMD processors that was kind of outdated. Was outdated. And so it was limiting threading, multi-threading across AMD systems, new Ryzen systems. So what you see actually, and now that I look at this chart again, a Ryzen 9 3900X, which is a 12-core CPU, doesn't see much of a performance lift with the new patch, because you're kind of reaching a point of diminishing returns once you get over 8 cores. But 8-core CPUs, like a Ryzen 7 5800X or a Ryzen 7 3700X, in which Ben tested both of those, did see a very nice appreciable gain. So more physical cores available, and you're not going to see a whole lot, of a gain. But if you're, fewer cores, like 8-core or less, you're going to see gains from better multi-threading. So symmetric multi-threading, SMT. So yeah, and that's what's crazy. It was such a layup. Like all they had to do, we fixed this by doing a quick little hex edit on the EXE to get rid of that detection mechanism and got better threading performance back. So it was like someone was asleep at the switch on that one.
Yeah. We have Michael Mitchell in the comments asking, will this change people's thoughts around pre-ordering games? I think it really should. Unless you're dying for a game, don't pre-order it, because sometimes
Yeah.
even waiting a week or two, you can save 10, $20. The day zero patches that are massive, get updated multiple times.
The DLC on it.
I say, unless you're like, I mean, right now everybody's bored and stuck at home, so I could see why people wanted to jump in on such a highly sought after game. But man, if you can wait, you should wait.
Yeah. When it comes to software, absolutely. Hardware, I can understand pre-order, especially in this day and age when stuff is scarce as hen's teeth. That makes sense. But software is like, let somebody else cut their teeth on it. Probably isn't a bad strategy. Chris,
Yep.
what's your strategy on this, Chris? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, with digital downloads, pre-ordering doesn't really make any sense. They still get companies that'll incentivize it by giving you different freebies with your pre-order that you wouldn't get if you just ordered it day one the regular way. But they're not going to sell out of CDs. They're not going to. There's no actual scarcity to it. So pre-ordering definitely doesn't make sense, except for putting money in the company's pocket that they may or may not deserve, because we don't know if they've actually delivered what they've promised yet or not. So, I mean, I definitely recommend waiting for reviews, because but the flip side of that is, reviews may not be out and ready day one, depending on the context, if they're giving advanced keys or not. You may be wanting to avoid game spoilers, just want to experience everything fresh for yourself. And when you have a title that's as hyped as Cyberpunk, you're going to be seeing things about it everywhere, regardless of if you're looking for it or not. So I get that angle of it too, but at least the refund policy on Cyberpunk seems to have been fairly generous, appropriately.
Yeah, reasonably balanced there for sure, for benefit of consumers. Talk about a wild ride, kind of a launch. I mean, my goodness, the early headline that came out post-launch was Cyberpunk recouped its development costs, or CD Projekt Red, excuse me, recouped its development cost on Cyberpunk on pre-orders alone. Its development investment on pre-orders alone, which is just like mind-blowing to even think that and so many years in development. And then, post-launch with all the issues, they're getting sued by investors. I mean, as Marco noted, taking a lot of hits. But, in some cases, not unjustifiably so. But I don't know, man. I played some of the game. I enjoyed it. I need to dig into it more and have more time in my life to game, but I enjoyed it. Did you check it out yet, Marco?
I haven't. I have it in my Steam library, but I haven't done the actual install yet. We have another question from Craig asking if we think enabling SMT on an older Ryzen 8 core 1800X would help. I'm not sure, because the first gen Ryzen's, the cache structure is completely different, but I would think yes, even if you don't see a big jump in frame rate, like the 10-12% we've seen on other chips, having the threads available might help maintain smoothness and keep things smoother. So I would give it a shot. We didn't get a chance to test it, but I would probably say yes, knowing what I know about how this game engine runs.
Yeah, when you look at the deltas we saw between like a 5800X and a 3700X, so 8-core to 8-core, but Zen 2, Zen 3, the Zen 2 differential was significantly more prominent. Yeah, it was. You're talking 62 frames per second on average versus 70 on a 3700X, and then 77 frames per second versus 82 on the 5800X. Whereas a 3900X 12-core Zen 2 is like almost no change, just a little bit of gain, a little bit better, minimums, kind of it. But interesting, yeah. Then you can tell it, 8-core or less, you need that threading, and opening that up definitely get you a little bit more performance out of the can.
Yep.
Cool. Well, let's move on. And shift gears to laptop land, and then we'll come back for the big finale with your big honking GPU that I know you have probably sitting in your office somewhere, Marco. You have lots of big things.
I didn't pull it out of the test rig. It's still sitting next to me, but man, it's a big boy.
We'll talk about that shortly. But let's talk about a remarkably surprising, refreshing, all these different superlatives laptop that I edited this review for Ben. The Lenovo Yoga 7i premium Intel Evo laptop on a budget, which, premium and budget, kind of an oxymoron, but this laptop for $750. So when we launched this, it was retailing for $750. I think it's been oscillating up to like $800 or thereabouts, here and there, but you still can find it on sale for as little as $750. This is an Intel Evo branded laptop, so by Lenovo. So it's powered by Intel's 11th gen core technology. So it's got a Core i5 1135 G7, 4-core, 8-thread CPU. It is Tiger Lake and has Intel Iris Xe graphics on board as well. 80 execution units though, so a little bit lower config, not the full 96 that Iris Xe on a higher end Core i7 SKU brings. But 14-inch display, 1920 by 1080 touch display, 300 nits of brightness. Nothing too fancy there, but a 1080p touch display. 512 gig NVMe SSD, 12 gigs of DDR4 memory. And then, of course, you also get, with that, all of the connectivity features that come with Intel's Tiger Lake platform. So you get Thunderbolt 4, you get Wi-Fi 6, all baked in on Intel's brand new platform. 71 watt hour battery, so a nice healthy battery, and just a shade over 3 pounds. So a really well balanced, really well configured machine. That 512 gig SSD sticks out for me as something you don't find in a $750 SKU. Really well appointed machine for just $750. And the thing put up numbers hanging with certainly Ultrabooks of previous generation, 10th gen and beyond, or earlier type Intel platforms. But really just great performance, great, build quality. It's premium. It's not a plastic affair. There's, aluminum here, machined aluminum going on, backlit keyboard, good keyboard as always with Lenovo. They do a good job there. Dolby Atmos speaker system that actually has some pretty darn good sound quality. You're not going to get a ton of bass, but well-appointed machine for $750 and just really a lot of value. I was impressed just on the price point alone. What were your thoughts with this, Marco?
No, that's a rocking machine. So I love the form factor. I love the build. I love the understated looks. The processor, super strong processor. A couple other things to note with regards to the GPU. Not only is it the scaled back Iris, but while Tiger Lake supports LPDDR4X at speeds up to, I believe, 4266, this machine only has standard DDR4 3200. So in addition to fewer execution units, it has less shared memory bandwidth. So the GPU scaling is significantly lower than the top end. I think in some tests versus a 28 watt, high-end Tiger Lake, it's nearly half the performance. But for day-to-day computing use, plenty powerful. Nice battery life, really a well-rounded machine for the money, for sure. I absolutely like it for the money. I actually recommended 2 of them to friends.
Yeah, I mean, this is a SKU you can pick up at Best Buy for $750. I'll go a little bit beyond the Lenovo brand as well. There's also, it's interesting. It's like Intel got together with some of the major manufacturers and said, hey, let's hit a well under $800 price point and bring some fairly strong Ultrabook level specs for the money. And you can find also a Dell Inspiron, I think it's 7000 2-in-1. Again, for right around $750, $800, sometimes even less, like $699. Similar config, same processor. I think the Dell machine didn't have the touchscreen, but also at places like Best Buy, almost an identical kind of config. They have 12 gigs of RAM. They have a 512 gig SSD. HP has an X360. I think it's an NV X360 or something like that. I don't know if I have that right, but it's an X360 machine. Same thing, $750 price point, thereabouts, similar config, 11th gen Core i5. And just really good sort of well-appointed machines for the money out there. And this Lenovo machine impressed the heck out of us. Chris, what's your watermark for laptops in terms of price points and performance? I thought this was good value.
So I think the $600 to $800 range is really where most consumers who don't know that they need something special or aren't looking for gaming should probably be looking in the market anyways.
Yeah, man.
And
Yep.
the numbers I'm seeing that this machine put up for performance is just excellent. I mean, you can certainly get a much more premium build out of a system for a few $100 more, but performance wise, you're not going to see as much of a difference. And if you just need the performance, you need it to work, this is a great place to be. So I find it's a pretty easy place to recommend a machine, and I don't really see anything about this to not like. Very well done from Lenovo here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we actually looked at performance across a number of different metrics, like we always do. Cinebench R20, for example, this thing's putting up, competitive numbers to other 11th gen machines that are actually running Core i, like the Dell XPS 13 2-in-1, which is probably a little bit more thermally challenged, super thin and light 2-in-1. What's hanging with that and beating it in some cases. Depending on the performance setting of the machine, there's different fan profiles. When it comes to gaming, as you pointed out, I think, Marco, because it's a lower end Iris Xe graphics config, you're not getting all the performance there, but I don't think you're gaming all that much in this machine either, so, but it's still got certainly better, gaming chops than previous, 10th gen integrated graphics. Yeah. Yeah, I take that back actually on the gaming. It looks like it's sometimes slower than 10th gen, sometimes slightly faster depending on the config. It's kind of right around, kind of 10th gen GPU or graphics performance. Interesting. But yeah, that's a Core i5 variant. Of this machine. So good stuff from the folks at Lenovo. Anything else on that before we move on? Battery life was great too. It's a pretty stout battery. It's a little slightly heavier machine, a little over 3 pounds.
Yeah,
and
apparently I was muted. So just recap.
I could hear you.
Well, I was muted stream side. I'm having
bummer.
audio issues in the background, so I'm trying to cut down on that. But yeah, I was just saying that if you're playing a lower power game like League of Legends or CSGO, it's probably going to do just fine for most people. Or if you're like party games like Among Us or Fall Guys or whatever, I think you're going to be able to play those games on this and have fun with them. But you're obviously not going to be playing the Cyberpunks and the other AAA titles, and at least have any kind of frame rate to write home about. So, but certainly capable for a lot of the games that people are playing, especially when they're on the road.
Yep. And when you think about a machine configured like this, with a 512 gig NVMe SSD, 12 gigs of RAM, typically you're talking about something that's $1,000, 900 to $1,000 minimum. So good to see these price points. I think Intel has there's been a fire lit, and it's good to see Intel is running flat out with it. It will be interesting to see what AMD comes back with Zen 3 mobile. We have not heard boo about that. Kind of expect something to happen in the CES timeframe in a couple of weeks here, but we don't have any indication either way on that. So we'll have to see. But right now, this is a good offering in the market, right, Marco?
Yeah, man. We have a couple of more comments in the chat. Michael Mitchell talking about how much good luck he's had with Lenovo support. And we've got a striker. I believe this might be my nephew, is asking if Intel will continue to see declines in the CPU market in laptops based on recent news. Intel owns laptops. Intel owns the mobile space. And despite how strong Zen 3 looks on the desktop, if you look at single thread performance on mobile, Tiger Lake is right there. So even with 3 generations of Zen, Intel still, you can make an argument, has the fastest single cores out there in the mobile space. The mobile processors are, multiple generations newer than what's on desktop. But in terms of Intel's mobile capabilities, and with initiatives like Evo, I do not expect Intel to lose much in the mobile space. AMD is definitely coming on strong, but Intel is that's their fiercest arena to compete right now. And Tiger Lake and Evo, Evo branded laptops are all looking strong.
Yeah, we should probably back up a little bit and just explain what Evo is for folks that don't know. Intel Evo is a new branding by Intel, where they are going to the market co-designing and specifying laptop platform architectures with OEM partners. So, 11th gen core processors and a certain criteria needs to be met in design for Evo. It's different. Sometimes it's based on performance metrics like, wake from sleep and things like that, battery life. But it's an experiential deliverable that needs to be set and made by the manufacturers with Intel from a design standpoint in terms of features and experience. So good stuff. And we liked it. Yeah. Good stuff from the folks at Lenovo. We'll be seeing some more from them for sure at CES 2021. So stay tuned for that. All right. You want to move along to big honking bad butt GPUs?
Let's do it.
All right, I'm gonna drop this in the chat, and we just put this up today. This is MSI's GeForce RTX 3080 Supreme, not Supreme, Supreme X. Stick the X on the end because you got to have the X to accentuate things. Review, big, bad, and bold is what we called it. And looking at this thing, man, three fans, all kinds of RGB lighting, big honking card. 3 PCI Express 8-pin power connectors. Hello. Are we talking nuclear reactor here?
Yeah, yes and no. So MSI went completely the other direction versus NVIDIA's Founders Edition card. Before I dive into this, we just had a quick comment from Michael asking about, hey, any word on Intel discrete GPUs? It seems they've gone silent. Yes, this will be a big year for Intel discrete GPUs. That's about what we could say for now. It's coming. It's coming, and if the rumors we're hearing are true, I think people are going to be surprised at how fast the first ones are, in terms of the HPG, not the mainstream ones. But getting back to the MSI, the GeForce RTX 3080, it's actually pronounced Supreme. They just spelled it special. Oh. Yeah, it's pronounced Supreme. It like I said, completely the opposite direction from Founders Edition card. The Founders Edition 3080 is 2 slots. It's got that little tiny PCB with the small form factor power connector. Super quiet. This card is super quiet. The fans actually shut off completely when it's idle or at low temps. But massive PCB, 13.5 inches, huge triple slot design, triple fans. With the 3 PCI Express power connectors, that's 450 watts fed right there, plus 75 through the slot available. Jesus. Just an absolute beast. It's not plastic. It's brushed aluminum, polished aluminum on the back, RGB throughout, 3 Torx 4 double ball bearing fans. Just literally across the board, every piece of this thing is premium, and it shows in the benchmarks. Now, one thing to consider with GeForce 30 series cards, they're all power limited, right? NVIDIA could have let board partners go nuts and, change power limits and go crazy, but they don't, just to, ensure stability and longevity of the cards. So what you find is in its stock configuration, right? It can boost to, it's got a dual BIOS switch for a silent mode or a gaming mode. Both modes boost to 1905 megahertz. The only difference is the fan speed, so you get slightly higher temps in silent mode. There's an additional mode available if you install MSI software that'll push boost to 1920 megahertz. But that's child's play for this card. If you install Afterburner and crank up the power targets, turn up the offset, literally with minimal tweaking, almost 2.2 gigahertz out of the GPU on this thing, and it never broke 70C, right? 69C overclocked to nearly 2.2 gigahertz. Noise was under 40 dB. That's like as low as my meter goes. So basically inaudible over the other parts in my test rig. Really, the only concerns with this monster is the size. This is the first GPU in, I believe I rebuilt my test rigs about 5 years ago using some mainstream NZXT cases. I had to bend the drive cage to fit this card in. It's that big. It dwarfs the 3090. It's bigger in every dimension than the 3090. Yeah.
Dwarfs it.
Dwarfs it. It's longer, taller, fatter, everything.
That's hilarious, actually. I mean, why not, right? I mean, heck, you know, if you're going to go big or go home, right? I mean, come on.
Right. But what you see, though, like performance, it beats the Founders Edition across the board, not by a lot, a couple percentage points in its stock configuration. So you're not going to see a huge, performance boost versus the Founders Edition. You will win if you're benchmarking basically across the board. One test was essentially a tie, but that was, CPU limited. And it's got like a $200 price premium in terms of MSRP. Price is obviously all over the map because availability is so wonky right now. Now, would I pay the $200 for what this card offers? Tough call. Really depends, because in terms of experience, you're not really going to notice it versus a Founders Edition card, right? It's a couple of frames per second, couple of percentage points here or there. However, if you're building, a sick rig and you have the budget, I think this is probably the most extreme 3080 I've seen. And if you want disregarding like a Kingpin card, which is even more expensive, if you want like the best of the best of the enthusiast class 3080s, this is arguably it.
Yeah. Yeah. What's MSRP in this thing again?
$899.
$899. Okay, so it's a couple $100 more.
I couldn't find them for sale for less than like $1450 though.
Yeah, so. You can't in this market. You really can't even. That's hard, man. But, yeah, when you think about that, so you think about what this card offers for $899 versus a 3090 at $1499. If you could get it at $899, you can't get a 3090 for $1499, by the way, either.
Yeah.
You're definitely, as you mentioned, you're out there on the extreme. It is a big, heavy duty configuration. If you have room for it in your case, I personally wouldn't. I have a mid ATX tower. Yeah, you kind of, you got a lot of grunt there for sure. I would think it's also probably pretty good, at least on the projected reliability front, because it's running so tepid, well cooled with this massive cooler, not, pushing the envelope in any area.
Yeah, I mean every part of the card is premium. The fans are dual bearing, so they should last a long time. They barely spin up, under load if you're not overclocking. They do spin up, but they're not running at full tilt. It's got 16 power phases on the board, extra copper, in the PCB layers. It's mostly metal, very little plastic, massive heat sink. So even if the fans died on this card, if you have good cooling in your system, I wouldn't be surprised if it stayed stable. That's how big the heat sink is. Yeah. So yeah, it's over the top in every regard. And if you're looking for that type of card for your build, it's pretty nice. I like it.
It's supreme without the E.
It's Supreme X.
Doesn't even need the E. Yeah, no, it's definitely a showcase card. I will say that. Chris, is this your kind of jam? What are your thoughts on this? It's definitely, it is a colorful piece of work, man.
Yeah, so I've got to contrast it with the Alienware behind me that has a RTX 3090 in it that's actually smaller than most 3080s. So it's just very funny to me to see it go the opposite direction into such an extreme. I have to say I definitely prefer the smaller size. I still really like the little ITX builds. I like space efficiency. I don't like a monster chassis. And it, you can fit it into a mid tower maybe with some work, but you really want a chassis that can breathe in, and not so much my style, but definitely a beautiful card.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's regularly ahead of a 3080 Founders Edition, and occasionally kissing a 3090. But when it comes to heavy duty, straight up game titles, the 3090 is still pretty much handily ahead. Interesting offering from the folks at MSI. I will say that. Anything else about that before we head on, Marco?
No, like if the rumors are true and MSI makes a 20 gig version with higher clocks, that's going to be like insanely nice. So we'll see what happens.
There you go. What do we got in the chat? No, I shouldn't promote. Okay. I wonder what's going on with Michael Mitchell. Okay. Lots of chat going on.
Yeah, I think Michael's talking about the shipment or whatever of graphics cards that had gone missing or got stolen in China a couple months
back. Crazy.
It's
crazy.
And there was a story that broke over the weekend about like 500,000 GeForces found in a truck. That was a total fabrication, in case anybody watching didn't catch that. So I saw that story posted on some mainstream news outlets, and I'm like, oh my gosh, silly.
Yeah. I did see something about 700 something GPU config mining rig.
That was real.
That was producing 128 grand a year.
See, that's like a complete waste of money, right? So how many GeForces was it? Yeah, like it cost them 100 Gs to build that. So you better pray that the market stays strong for at least 2 years, or you're gonna lose your ass.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
because you got to pay for power on that shit, that stuff too. Sorry.
Whoops. You can say it that way. It's fine. Yeah. No, I think it was like 700 and something GPUs, and if you like used, I don't know, maybe you use $600 as your GPU target price. That's 420 grand. So that thing needs to run for 4 years before you're even breaking even.
No, is it that much? 700 GPUs at how much?
Or was it 78? Maybe it was 70. I got to remember now. I don't want to just talk.
I think it was 78 GPUs, and if you figure $800 a pop, it's $62,000 just in GPUs, and then you got to power that, So
yeah, there it is, 78 GeForce RTX 3080 crypto mining rig. So yeah, it's 78 RTX 3080s at $699, right? So $700 times 78. So it's 54 grand. All right. So in the first year, you're making coin.
Now, if you're on top of that scene and you're mining some of the altcoins and you get in on something where there's growth, then you can get rich. Mining Bitcoin is so hard now. Even with the high value hitting highs, that's going to be a tough one to recoup.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. All right. Well, let's finish up strong here and talk about a couple giveaways we got going on. I'll drop them in the chat. We've got one with EVGA and one that has been sponsored by the good folks at Asetek and AMD. The first one I just dropped in is the Asetek one. So we've got HotHardware's AAA holiday giveaway with AMD, Asetek, and AData. So you get a nice package there for a giveaway, which includes an AMD Ryzen 7 5800X 8-core Zen 3 CPU, XPG Levante 360 millimeter all-in-one cooler, and Summoner keyboard, mouse, and a Battleground mouse pad. So, I mean, nice little kit. There are currently only 24 hours left in this giveaway. But you can get in. You still can get in. You do a little social share and all that good stuff. And then let's talk about EVGA's giveaway. That is interesting. Chris, you're actually broadcasting currently on this machine. So the HotHardware and EVGA's Capture the Holidays giveaway, where we're giving away 6 of these streaming capture devices from EVGA, the XR1 capture device. There it is there. Colorful little fellow. You guys want to talk about it? Chris, you want to handle that one for the time being?
So, I mean, people who watch the show obviously know we've been working on improving our quality over the years, including, getting better camera setups. So, Dave and I have been using our Canon 80Ds for, I don't know, a few months now, since Canon released their USB webcam utility for it. But it's been nice because you get the full DSLR look to it, but it has been limited to a resolution of 1024 by 576. You don't get the full 1080p that the camera's capable out of it. And you get a little frame rate stuttering and stuff. So that's what Dave is currently using now. I'll just show his face for a moment. There we go. So with my camera here, I've actually now plugged in, because EVGA was nice enough to send over one of these for me to take a look at. So I'm using the XR1 now with my ADD. So one caveat with this particular camera and a lot of cameras out there is it can't do what's called a clean HDMI feed out. If I reach up here and turn on the info, this is what normally shows. So, you got to turn all that off. And it also means I have to turn off autofocus, because autofocus will put a little box on my face despite turning off the info. So that's unfortunate for this particular camera. But if you do have a camera that gives you clean HDMI out, which most newer cameras do, and you get a capture card like this, you can still have your autofocus and just get a supremely crispy feed. It's similar to what I guess it is what Marco's doing with his camera. Smile, Marco.
Hello, everybody.
So he's got a 4K camera with a capture card. He doesn't have the EVGA yet, but I don't know if he's getting one, but same idea. You get the very nice picture quality out of it. So it's good to have a capture card in general. What makes this one really nice is it's not just, like a Elgato Cam Link where you just plug in your camera and that's it. You can actually do pass-through with this card, and you can pass through a 4K 60 hertz signal and capture it at 1080p 60. So you can get, 1080p, which is pretty much the sweet spot for streaming resolution right now. There's not much reason to go higher than that, but you can still enjoy your game in 4K. And it also has the option that if you are at 1080p anyway, but you have a 1080p high refresh rate monitor, is you can actually, when you're not streaming, you could just with the click of a button switch it over to do 120 hertz pass through. So you don't have to unplug cables when you actually are just on your own for gaming. You just switch a button and you're off to the races. So it's a lot more convenient in that way, which I really like. And if I bring up the picture again, up top is a knob for some of the controls. And the main thing you can do with it is you can actually plug your microphone into the mixer there, as well as your game source audio. And you can control the volume with the knob. So if you have a microphone that doesn't have gain adjustment or doesn't have good gain adjustment, like I've seen with some microphones that technically have it, you can actually use this as a volume mixer to control that as well. So
handy. Yeah. Not bad. Yeah. So I actually just dropped a link to the product from EVGA on their site. You can check that out. It's the XR1. Which you are broadcasting via currently. We hope to actually get a couple more in that Marco and I can play with as well. But we've actually given away 4 of them already, believe it or not. There are 6 winners total, fast. So there's two more coming next week. But we've given away 4. And by the way, Michael Mitchell, I don't know if you're aware, but you're a winner, dude. We did announce you. You're a winner of one of these. Yeah. You get an XR1.
Check the post from yesterday.
Yep. Gleam picked you out of the masses. There's something like, I don't know how many actions, 44,000 total entries based on, a number of points per entry. But there's, thousands of people in this. And Michael, you won.
Yeah, he's in the chat asking how the heck is that possible? It's your lucky day, man.
Because you did.
Yeah. And just to cover your question, since you did ask before knowing you were a winner, so you said it's pretty cool that it does the 4K 60 throughput, and yes, that is while you're capturing, you can game in 4K there. 60 hertz, that's fine. And then he asked if it has video editing software. They don't have video editing software for it, but it is the first product to be OBS certified. So it'll work no problem with Open Broadcaster software. That's what I'm using to stream here. I haven't tested it with Streamlabs OBS yet, but I don't anticipate there being any issues there. I've been using it on Zoom calls for the last week and a half, hour long I've had it, just to test it out. It's been rock solid with that. So very good there. And Blackhawk is asking, it's an auxiliary mic for the capture card, right? Not an XLR, and that is correct. So 3.5 millimeter. You can't control a USB mic. You can't control an XLR with it unless you're converting with a mixer to 3.5 from that first. But yeah, congratulations, Michael, and the other winners. I don't have the names in front of me.
I've
so
got them right here.
Out,
so if anybody's if you guys are listening by chance, Edward Tavares, you're a winner. Matt Ricky, you're a winner. Vincent Yee, you're a winner. 3 guys. Looks like everybody's looks like we've got Edward's a Canadian, and then Ohio and Boston, Mass, good old Boston, Mass, where I'm from, and then Michael, who's from North Carolina. So hey, good stuff.
Oh, and I don't think I mentioned it's not just for cameras as well. You can actually hook up a game console to it as well, pass through your game output, or if you have a 2-system setup, like I could connect the Alienware behind me here into it, so I can game on the Alienware at 4K and use my personal PC to stream at 1080p. So maybe we'll set that up in the coming weeks just to show what that looks like. Yeah, there's a lot of flexibility you can do with it.
This cracks me up. It makes me happy because Michael's not a plant, believe it or not, everyone. He's in the chat right now. He doesn't always show up for the show. Michael, we know this. we see everybody. Right. And but he shows up tonight, and he probably wasn't even aware that he won. So it's great. It's great to be Santa New Year or whatever, right? So, and there you have it. And again, so the EVGA giveaway, this EVGA XR1 Capture the Holidays giveaway is still going on for another week, 7 days left. And again, I'm dropping this in the chat. This is the Asetek giveaway with AMD and AData, 2 very good partners, friends of ours. That little kitty of great gear is available for another 29 hours. So get in it to win it, as they say. Right, Marco?
Yeah, man. Come on. But, we make it super easy to get in on the contest. Like a couple of pages, hit a couple of pages, and you're automatically entered. And Gleam makes it easy for us to pick the winner. So definitely come on by. Get in on the chat, too. Make some friends with other HH readers. And, of course, like and subscribe to the channel. Trying to build the channel up, so you'll be helping us out.
That's it. Follow us on the web at hothardware.com, twitter.com/hothardware, youtube.com/hothardwarevids. Thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the reminder bell so that you get notified when we go live. And yeah, and stay tuned because coming quickly will be CES 2021, where we'll be running flat out and shooting rapid fire. All kinds of great stuff, right?
I'll be glad to be doing it from home this year, though. I think this is the first year since 2002 that I'm not spending in Vegas.
You're gonna miss the CES flu.
Yeah.
Honestly, the CES flu last year, I think, was COVID, but that's a different discussion.
Yeah. I'll miss the folks. I do miss getting together with the folks and seeing our friends in person, in the flesh, shaking hands, having a couple of cold ones after hours, all that good stuff that comes with human interaction. It's crazy. But yeah, kind of nice too, because it is a hustle. That city with 150,000 of your closest friends, it is a hustle.
Oh my God, so much work. I mean, running there have been years where I think over 3 days or 4 days we had something like 40 meetings plus parties. Plus you have to grind out articles while you're there and grind out video and pics.
Stress.
Now that I haven't been on an airplane since March, I really am missing lots of my industry friends. I can't wait to get back out there. But man, Vegas for CES is a grind, and I'm happy that we're covering it at least this year from the home offices.
It'll make it a little bit easier. So stay tuned. You can find us on the web at hothardware.com. And in the meantime, happy 2021 to you all, and thanks for stopping by.